Kenneth
This
Harper
is so
walked
magical.
briskly through the
With
snowy
you, every
park,
moment is.
his expensive
I love
charcoal
you.
I love you
overcoat
too.
doing little to ward off the bitter December cold. At 54, he was at the peak of his career as CEO of Harper Financial Group, one of the most successful investment firms on the East Coast. His salt and pepper hair was neatly trimmed, his demeanor commanding even in the falling snow. But success had come at a price he was only now beginning to understand. His daughter Rachel had called earlier that evening, canceling their weekly dinner once again. At 28, she was busy with her own life, her own career, and Kenneth couldn't blame her for that. He'd been absent for most of her childhood, always working, always traveling, always chasing the next deal. His ex-wife Margaret had raised Rachel largely on her own, and now Kenneth was reaping what he'd sown. Polite distance, formal phone calls, no real connection. He'd left the office late, as usual, and decided to walk through Riverside Park on his way home rather than take a cab. The park was nearly deserted at this hour, the snow creating a hushed, almost magical atmosphere. Street lamps cast golden pools of light along the path, and Kenneth found himself thinking about Christmases past, about the family traditions he'd missed, the moments he could never get back. That's when he heard it, a small voice trembling with cold and fear. "Please, sir, can you help us?" Kenneth stopped and turned. There, on a snow-covered bench, sat two children. A boy, perhaps 9 or 10 years old, wearing a navy blue jacket that was too thin for this weather. In his arms, wrapped in a brown blanket, was a tiny child. A baby, Kenneth realized, no more than 2 years old, wearing a knitted gray hat and looking up at him with enormous eyes. The boy's face was red with cold, his dark hair dusted with snowflakes. But what struck Kenneth most was the expression in his eyes, a desperate, fierce protectiveness mixed with fear. "Sir," the boy said again, his teeth chattering. "My baby sister is freezing. Please, we need help." Kenneth felt his heart lurch. He moved closer, kneeling down despite the snow soaking into his expensive pants. Up close, he could see that both children were dangerously cold. The baby's lips had a faint blue tinge, and she was crying weakly, a pitiful sound that cut straight through Kenneth's chest. "What are you doing out here?" Kenneth asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Where are your parents?" The boy's face crumpled, but he held himself together with visible effort. "Our mom died 6 months ago. We've been staying with our uncle, but he left us here yesterday. He said he couldn't afford to keep us anymore. He said someone would find us and take care of us." Kenneth felt rage surge through him, hot and fierce. What kind of monster would abandon children in winter weather? "What's your name?" he asked gently. "I'm Marcus," the boy said, "and this is my sister Sophia. She's only 18 months old. I've been trying to keep her warm, but I don't know what to do anymore. She won't stop crying, and she feels so cold." Kenneth didn't hesitate. He stood up and removed his overcoat, wrapping it around both children. It engulfed them, but at least it would provide some warmth. Marcus looked up at him with surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, sir." "But won't you be cold?" "I'll be fine," Kenneth said, though the wind cut through his suit jacket immediately. "But we need to get you two somewhere warm right now. Can you walk?" Marcus nodded. "I think so. My feet are really cold, though." "Here," Kenneth said, crouching down. "Climb on my back. Keep hold of Sophia." Marcus hesitated, then carefully positioned himself on Kenneth's back, clutching his baby sister with one arm and holding on to Kenneth with the other. Kenneth stood, feeling the weight of both children, and started walking as quickly as he could toward the park entrance. His apartment was only 3 blocks away, far closer than any hospital. Every instinct told him these children needed warmth immediately. He could call for medical help once they were safe. The walk felt eternal. The snow fell harder, and Kenneth could feel Marcus shivering against his back, could hear Sophia's weak whimpering. He talked to them the whole way, keeping his voice steady and reassuring. "You're going to be okay. Both of you. I promise. We're almost there. Just hold on," Marcus whispered. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." Kenneth thought about that question as he trudged through the snow. Why was he helping them? Because it was the right thing to do, certainly. But it was more than that. Looking into Marcus's eyes, seeing the way he held his baby sister with such fierce love despite being just a child himself, Kenneth had seen something he'd forgotten existed. Pure selfless devotion. The kind of love that asked for nothing in return. "Because you need help," Kenneth said simply. "And because your sister is lucky to have a brother like you." He felt Marcus's grip tighten slightly, and he thought the boy might be crying, but he didn't say anything. When they finally reached Kenneth's building, the doorman's eyes widened. "Mr. Harper, are you—" "Get the door, James," Kenneth said urgently. "And call my personal physician. Tell him it's an emergency. 2 children with hypothermia." In his apartment, Kenneth carried the children directly to the guest bathroom and turned on the shower to lukewarm. "We need to warm you up slowly," he explained to Marcus. "Too fast can be dangerous. Can you hold Sophia while I help you both?" Over the next hour, Kenneth worked with the efficiency of someone who'd rediscovered a purpose. He helped Marcus into the shower with Sophia, gradually increasing the water temperature. He called Dr. Richardson, who arrived within 20 minutes. He ordered food to be delivered. He found spare clothes, his smallest t-shirts, which were still enormous on Marcus, and a soft blanket for Sophia. Dr. Richardson examined both children thoroughly. "They'll be fine," he told Kenneth quietly. "You got to them in time. Another hour or 2 out there, especially the baby, and we'd be having a very different conversation." Kenneth felt his knees go weak with relief. "Thank God." "They're malnourished," Dr. Richardson continued. "And the boy has some old bruises that concern me. I suspect they haven't been properly cared for in some time. You need to contact Child Protective Services." "I will," Kenneth promised. "But not tonight. Tonight they need to rest and feel safe." After Dr. Richardson left, Kenneth found Marcus sitting on the couch, wrapped in blankets, holding his now sleeping sister. The boy's eyes were heavy, but he refused to close them. "You can sleep," Kenneth said gently, sitting down beside them. "You're safe here. What if Uncle Ray comes back?" Marcus whispered. "He won't. And if he tries, I won't let him near you. I promise you, Marcus. You're under my protection now." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you being so nice to us? Everyone else they just left us. After Mom died, everyone said they'd help, but then they didn't. Uncle Ray said we were a burden, that nobody wanted us." Kenneth felt something break inside him. He thought about Rachel, about how he'd been there physically but absent in all the ways that mattered, about how he'd prioritized work over family until it was too late to build the kind of relationship he'd always assumed would just be there. "Your uncle was wrong," Kenneth said firmly. "You're not a burden. You're a brave young man who's been doing an impossible job. Taking care of a baby when you're still a child yourself? That's extraordinary, Marcus. Your mother would be so proud of you." Marcus finally broke down, tears streaming down his face. "I miss her so much, and I've been so scared. I didn't know how to take care of Sophia. I tried, but I didn't know what I was doing." Kenneth pulled both children close, careful not to wake the baby. "You did everything right. You kept your sister alive. You asked for help when you needed it. That takes courage." They stayed like that for a long time, until Marcus finally fell asleep, his head resting against Kenneth's shoulder. Kenneth sat there in the quiet apartment, holding these 2 orphaned children, and felt something shift in his soul. He'd spent decades building an empire, measuring his worth in dollars and deals, but none of that had prepared him for this moment. For the weight of a sleeping child who trusted him enough to rest, for the responsibility of 2 small lives that depended on him. He called his lawyer at midnight. "David, I'm sorry to wake you, but I need your help with something important." The next morning, Kenneth contacted Child Protective Services, but he also made his intentions clear. He wanted to become the children's foster parent, and eventually, if possible, adopt them. The caseworker who came to interview him was skeptical at first. "Mr. Harper, fostering children is a significant commitment, especially a toddler and a preteen with trauma. This isn't something you can do part-time while running a corporation." "I understand that," Kenneth said, "and I'm prepared to make changes to my life to accommodate them, whatever they need." Over the next weeks, Kenneth did exactly that. He reduced his hours at work, delegating more to his executive team. He hired a nanny, but made sure he was there for breakfast every morning and dinner every evening. He enrolled Marcus in a good school and arranged for counseling to help him process his trauma and grief. Sophia was more complicated. She'd been neglected during the months with their uncle, and she was behind developmentally, but with proper care, regular meals, and constant affection, she began to blossom. Her weak cries became giggles. Her fearful expression became curious and then joyful. Marcus was harder to reach. He was polite, grateful, but guarded. He'd been let down by too many adults to trust easily, but Kenneth was patient. He showed up day after day. He helped with homework. He attended school conferences. He taught Marcus to play chess and took him to baseball games. He never made promises he couldn't keep. One evening, about 3 months after that snowy night in the park, Kenneth was reading to Sophia before bed. She'd become attached to him, reaching for him when she was tired, calling him Ken Ken in her toddler voice. Marcus appeared in the doorway, watching. "Can I talk to you?" Marcus asked quietly. "Of course." Kenneth settled Sophia in her crib and followed Marcus to his room. The boy sat on his bed, looking uncomfortable. "I wanted to thank you," Marcus said, "for everything. The caseworker said we're going to stay here, that you want to be our foster father officially." "That's right. If you want that too." Marcus nodded quickly. "I do. Sophia loves you. And He struggled with the words. "I feel safe here. For the first time since Mom died, I feel like maybe things might be okay." Kenneth sat down beside him. "They will be okay, Marcus. I promise you that." "But why?" Marcus burst out. "Why would you want us? You have your own life. You're important, rich. You could do anything. Why would you choose to take care of us?" Kenneth thought carefully about how to answer. "Do you know what I was doing the night I found you?" Marcus shook his head. "I was walking through the park alone, feeling sorry for myself. I have a daughter, Rachel. She's grown now, but I wasn't there for her when she was young. I was always working, always busy with things that seemed important but really weren't. And now she's polite to me, but we're not close. We're not family, not really. And that night, I realized I'd wasted the most important years of my life, chasing things that didn't matter." He looked at Marcus seriously. "And then I found you and Sophia. And you were this brave kid, trying to protect your baby sister even though you were freezing and scared. You showed me what love really looks like. Not the easy kind when everything is comfortable, but the hard kind when you sacrifice everything for someone who needs you." Kenneth's voice grew thick with emotion. "You gave me a second chance, Marcus. A chance to be the kind of man I should have been all along. A chance to show up for someone, to be there, to matter in the way that really counts. So I'm not doing you a favor. You're doing me one." Marcus stared at him for a long moment, then threw his arms around Kenneth's neck. "I was so scared you'd change your mind, that you'd realize we were too much trouble and send us away." Kenneth hugged him back. This boy who'd been forced to grow up too fast, who'd carried burdens no child should carry. "Never. You're stuck with me now. Both of you." The adoption was finalized 6 months later. Kenneth's lawyer had worked tirelessly to navigate the legal complexities, and the judge, moved by the obvious bond between Kenneth and the children, approved it without hesitation. Rachel came to the celebration dinner, and Kenneth watched her interact with Marcus and Sophia with a mixture of joy and regret. She was kind to them, sweet even, but there was a reserve there. The damage from her childhood couldn't be undone overnight. After the kids were in bed, Rachel sat with Kenneth in the living room. "You're different," she said. "With them?" "What do you mean?" "You're present, engaged. You actually look happy." She smiled sadly. "I don't remember you being like that when I was young." Kenneth felt the words like a knife. "I wasn't. And I'm so sorry for that, Rachel. I was a terrible father to you." "You weren't terrible. You just weren't there." She paused. "But I'm glad you're there for them. They need you. And maybe it's not too late for us either. To build something better." Kenneth reached over and took her hand. "I'd like that more than anything." "It won't be easy," Rachel warned. "I have a lot of resentment built up." "I know, and I deserve it. But I'm willing to do the work if you are." Rachel squeezed his hand. "Let's start with weekly dinners. Actually weekly this time, not canceled at the last minute. Deal." Years passed, and Kenneth's life became something he'd never imagined. His days were filled with school pickups and doctor's appointments, with helping Marcus with algebra and reading Sophia endless bedtime stories. His evenings were spent at soccer games and dance recitals. His weekends were for pancake breakfasts and trips to the zoo. The work didn't stop. Marcus had nightmares for years, waking up terrified that he was back on that bench in the snow. Sophia struggled in school and needed extra support. There were tantrums and arguments and moments when Kenneth questioned whether he was doing anything right. But there were also moments of pure joy. Marcus's face when he got accepted to his first-choice college. Sophia's laughter when Kenneth pushed her on the swings. The first time Marcus called him Dad instead of Kenneth. The way Sophia would curl up in his lap and fall asleep, completely trusting and safe. And slowly, gradually, Kenneth rebuilt his relationship with Rachel. It was awkward at first, stilted and careful. But over time, through consistent effort and honest conversations, something genuine grew between them. She became a regular presence in the house, an older sister to Marcus and Sophia, and eventually, she told Kenneth she forgave him. "You're a better father to them than you were to me," she said one day. And at first that made me angry. But then I realized something. You couldn't be a good father to them if you hadn't learned from your mistakes with me. So maybe I had a purpose in your life too. Maybe I taught you what not to do. You deserve better, Kenneth said. Maybe, but this is what I got, and I'm choosing to move forward rather than stay stuck in the past. That's the gift you've given me watching you change. The knowledge that it's never too late to become a better person. On the 10th anniversary of the night, he found Marcus and Sophia in the park. Kenneth took them back to that bench. It was winter again, snow falling gently, the park peaceful and quiet. Marcus was 19 now, home from college for winter break, tall and confident and thoughtful. Sophia was 11, precocious and creative, with her mother's artistic talent and Kenneth's business sense. They stood together in front of the bench, and Kenneth felt the weight of the decade that had passed. How much had changed? How much he'd gained? "Do you remember that night?" he asked Marcus. "Every detail," Marcus said quietly. "I remember thinking we were going to die. I remember praying that someone would help us. And then you appeared, like some kind of miracle." "I was the one who got the miracle," Kenneth said. "You two saved me just as much as I saved you." Sophia, who'd been too young to remember that night, slipped her hand into Kenneth's. "Tell me the story again," she said, "about how we became a family." And so Kenneth told them, standing in the snow where it had all begun, about loneliness and chance and the transformative power of love, about how sometimes salvation comes when we least expect it, in forms we don't recognize. He told them about the scared boy and his baby sister, about the businessman who'd lost his way, and about how they'd found each other on the coldest night of the year and created something warm and lasting and true. "The best decision I ever made," Kenneth said, pulling them both close, "was stopping on that path. And the best thing I ever did was bring you home." Marcus smiled. "We were all homeless in a way, weren't we? You were just as lost as we were." Kenneth thought about that. About the empty penthouse he'd lived in before, the meaningless dinners alone, the hollow success. "You're absolutely right. But we found our way home together." And as they walked back through the park, a family bound not by chance but by choice, Kenneth sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. For second chances, for the courage to change, for two children who'd taught him what it meant to truly live. He'd thought he was saving them that snowy night, but in the end they'd saved each other. And that was the greatest gift of all.